And the sanctions came after Russia managed to broker a peace deal in Syria with the help of Turkey. The much-anticipated nationwide ceasefire came into effect on Thursday at midnight, Damascus time. The deal represents a major breakthrough and gives hope for a solution to the long-running Syrian crisis. The Russian Defence Minister says that 7 key opposition groups have vowed to join the truce, although groups that do not abide by the ceasefire will be considered terrorists. Russia and Turkey have agreed to monitor and assist the process as the guarantors of the deal. However, the current US administration, which had previously been considered a key player in any Syrian settlement, is not expected to participate, as Murad Gazdiev explains.
John Kerry and Sergei Lavrov, for a while there, they were inseparable, visiting each other, closeting themselves away in Geneva for hours, for days at a time, trying to solve the world's problems. They had their moments, but when it came to Syria, it was abject failure. Whether it was arguing and blaming each other about an aid convoy attack, the reasons for a ceasefire failure, or the United States accidentally bombing Syrian troops, they just couldn't find a common position, common ground. And eventually, Russia had enough.
As for Jabhat al-Nusra, the US not only doesn't touch it, but during all our discussions, they tried in every way to formulate agreements so al-Nusra was not attacked. Of course, we can't accept that because al-Nusra is a terrorist organization, as admitted by the United Nations, the US, Russia, and other countries.
Time to switch things around, mix things up. Enter the Troika, not the likeliest of A-teams, Iran, Russia and Turkey, but certainly one that gets things done. The Aleppo evacuation, thousands of lives saved, the city spared devastation. The ceasefire effort in Syria, the biggest ceasefire, theoretically, that the civil war has ever seen. Now they've got plans for a peace settlement, even a roadmap. They're now doing what the United States promised to do for years and finally separate the radical jihadists from the moderate opposition.
During the last 2 months, we spent most of the time developing maps to show where the main opposition groups could be divided, information we had earlier requested from the United States.
The United States just couldn't do it. They blamed Russia, they blamed Assad, they blamed the conditions. The Friends of Syria failed. The ISSG, International Syria Support Group, failed. The talks in Geneva failed. The Troika, the new Syrian coalition, is getting things done. They now have plans to expand, to grow, inviting a whole host of new nations, and noticeably absent among them is the United States, and that must not sit well with Washington. Cue the timing of new sanctions. On the same day that Russia, Iran and Turkey agree to this huge new ceasefire without so much as telling the United States, you have new sanctions leveled against Russia.
Well, Kamal Alam, a visiting fellow at the Royal United Services Institute, which is a defence and security think tank, says that Washington is trying to move attention away from the breakthrough ceasefire deal.
If they want to distract from the good news in Syria by putting the sanctions on the Russians in DC at the embassy, it's obviously very unfortunate, especially, as there's a new US president coming in. I mean, there could be a link because obviously the news coming out of Syria is very positive after, years of negative news. The ceasefire seems to be coordinated on the ground. This is why the United States has been sidelined. They do not have a role because, unfortunately, the United States and the Europeans have been looking at the Syrian war through rhetoric and headlines, whilst the Russians have been looking at reality. And the reality on the ground has always been very different in Syria.